Welcome once again. Today we are looking at database programming from scratch. Specific reference is made to MySQL. For me, I am using a classic version of MySQL, which is MySQL 5.5. I assume that you have installed your version of Workbench or any other MySQL version, and we're good to go. Let me log in to my server. So right now I can say ignore because I have not chosen any, but if I don't ignore, I can say okay. Then I type here the schema, but now I want to just ignore, continue. I want to have all of them, then I choose what I want. Firstly, the first thing to do is to know how to create a database. How do we create a database? We create a database using the syntax, and this syntax, we know it is, you first say create database, then you put the database name. For example, I'm going to say create database. I think you see it's changing color. Changing color means that those words have special meaning. So create database, for example, hospital information management system, or let me say hospital information management database. I terminate, so I can run this command. So when we check here under schemata and we refresh, we shall have that database created. You can see there is a database called HMD, and when we open, it has no information like tables. It is simply there. How do you know that your query has been successful? You see down here there is one row affected by the last command, no result set return. That simply tells you that something has been done successfully. Otherwise, if there was an error, it should have communicated that an error has been incurred. Now, databases are made of tables, and it is these tables that store information. Tables have features like primary keys and foreign keys. You may wonder what a primary key is. A primary key simply means a unique column that identifies a row. For example, you may have your registration number as a primary key. However, some of the personal things, records, cannot be a primary key. Imagine having a primary key as date of birth. Like you have 20th August as your primary key. Very many people were born on that day, so it can't identify you. However, it is always wise to create a unique column, like you may call it a student ID, which is not related at all with that student, but you put it there and it is all an auto increment, meaning that it is not null, it is increasing, and even if you delete a record, it continues to count. So, and when it is a primary key in one table, when you call it, when you invite it in another table, it becomes a foreigner. Therefore, we call it a foreign key because it has crossed borders from its jurisdiction to another table. Why is it called foreign key? Because it is in another table, but still the same column exists primarily in another table, and this column is what identify you. For example, your passport number is able to display all the information about you, so it is primary on your passport record. But when it is used in the Ministry of maybe Internal Affairs or immigration in another country, then it becomes a foreign key because it is identifying you, yet it is based in another table, which could be or maybe biodata. Let us see syntax for creating table. Now that we have created the database, A database is a collection of tables, related information, related records. Now, let us look at the tables. Now, in this table, hospital information management system, we may have a table. First of all, remember when we are building the system, for example, we first need table logins. So we can have a table of users. So what do we do? The syntax for creating a table, it is create table. As you can see, those words are blue, meaning that they have special meaning. For this, it simply means that we are about to execute a query that generates a table. So now we create a table. However, sometimes it's very, very important. Actually, not sometimes, always you say use, and which database do you want to use? Always say use database. Maybe use HMD. However, for my case, even if I don't say use, always make sure that it is bold. As you can see, these ones are not bold. So the database you want to use, always double click it and make sure that it is selected. It is the same as saying use. So however, when you're in command line, you say use the database. In a graphical user interface, even if you don't say use, as long as you have selected. So create a table, for example, table users. Table users. Now we open and close these brackets because we want our columns to be here. We want our columns to be here. So we may say we want user ID, int, for example, int. Yes, we want it to be an int, not null, and auto increment. Auto increment. Yes, int. This ID should be an int. It shouldn't be null, and it should be an auto increment. Then we have username. Username can be a varchar 100, not null. Not, sorry, this is a comma. We terminate at the end. Not null. Yes. Then we have email. Email can also be varchar 100, not null. Then remember we have to make primary key. As I told you, the ID is a primary key. So then we say primary key is the ID. So we can execute. And it says query returned no result set. So let us refresh and see if the table is created. The table user is already created, and when we run, you can see user ID is there, username is there, email is there. So we have successfully created the database. Now we have created the user ID, the user table with the user columns. Now